Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome on our platform. I'm Sudhir, and we are today in conversation with Srivatsan Iyer, a very well-known name in the renewable energy industry, in the larger energy landscape. He's the global CEO of Hero Future Energies. Welcome to you on our platform once again, Sri.
Thank you, Sudhir. Glad to be here.
Okay, let's start the conversation with a very broad topic and a topic that's the talk of the town, which is net zero. And I wanted to, start this conversation by asking you, how do you look at, the very ambitious target that India has set for itself when it comes to net zero? Do you think the government is doing enough? What more needs to be done to very broadly ensure that we are in line with the larger, requirement of the target there?
Yeah. So I think great question. Perhaps I'd like to preface that by saying there's been several news items over the last, I'd say, week, actually, 2 weeks, that says we could actually hit the tipping point of 1.5 degrees much sooner than we had originally, I guess, forecast, right? Could come as soon as 2025, according to some predictions, at least, or projections. And so as a country, India has to contribute to net zero, just like every other country in the world. But given that, some of the large emitting countries are already making progress, India needs to make that progress as well. I think that the balance that India is trying to strike is between economic development and making sure that it's fueled, quote unquote, by energy that's also sustainable at the same time. So if you were to look at the trifecta of energy supply to the population of India that improves people's lives, drives economic growth, it has to be affordable, it has to be reliable, and it has to be clean. And so I think the way the government appears to be approaching this is to say it's going to be a mix of multiple solutions and then transitioning into a 100% clean solution. And so it set itself goals by 2030 in terms of renewable energy targets, 2050, and so on and so forth. Certainly, the Indian government is doing a lot. I think it's set ambitious targets for itself, and it's backing it up by a set of policy and regulatory frameworks, as well as support, right, for specific initiatives to make sure that this happens. And I think we may all be pleasantly surprised, and I say this not just in the context of India, but all countries in the world, if this transition actually happens a whole lot sooner than we all realize. And the reason for that is a lot of these projections assume a linear growth of whatever technology that we have, whether it's solar, whether it's wind, whether it's battery. And history has actually shown us that renewable energies or a lot of new technologies actually follow an exponential timeline. And so the transition, if you were to project a linear transition, could take you by 2040 or 2045. If you were to take an exponential transition, could actually bring about the same change a whole lot sooner. So I'm actually fairly bullish about it. I think the one area I'd like to emphasize is certainly there's a lot of policy frameworks around cleaning or greening of the electricity part of the energy supply. Roughly a half to two-thirds of the emissions come from energy sources that are not electricity, whether it be industrial heating, whether it be mobility, which is transportation sector, and so on. And so the policy for net zero needs to cover, clearly there's strong policy frameworks and support for the electricity supply to move away from coal, primarily from coal and natural gas and so on, into renewables. And we need to start paying a lot more attention now to the other sources of emissions, which is really transportation and industrial energy, which is a lot of it has to do with heat, which clearly has a significant emission footprint with it. And so I think that's kind of the approach the government is taking. I just hope that there's a lot more acceleration in the other block, which is transportation and industrial, because there's already now a lot of effort on the electricity part of the energy spectrum.
Thanks for giving that perspective, Sri. You referred to decarbonization both in the industrial and transport sectors, and one of the buzzwords there is hydrogen. People are saying that that's one technology which can help a lot, right? And has to work if decarbonization has to happen in a meaningful way. What I want to ask you is, what are your views or thoughts on the potential of green hydrogen, right, as a means to have that entire decarbonization aim catalyzed, and also if you could also touch upon the company's specific plans on that side.
Yeah, I think green hydrogen is going to play a pivotal role in decarbonization, at least in the two sectors that I talked to you about. One is transportation, and I'm going to focus on heavy duty transportation and all of industrial heating. Today, 100% of industrial heating is really is natural gas or LPG or coal or other sources of fuel. And almost 100% of heavy duty transportation is either fuel oil or diesel. And so if you were to look at what are the technological options available to replace these, at least in the world of diesel and fuel oil, I think you can either think of electric batteries, but for heavy duty transportation, it's most likely hydrogen is going to be a better solution, whether it's in a fuel cell mode for heavy duty transportation or direct combustion of hydrogen in a combustion engine in trucks or buses, and can be hydrogen derivatives like ammonia as well that people are starting to work on now. And in industrial heating, it's the same thing, right? Electric heating, yes, people are working on. On an industrial scale, is electric heating the right solution? I think time will tell. Or is the combustion of hydrogen the right option, right? Because today already people are starting to blend hydrogen with natural gas and LPG streams. In fact, I think there was a news article that yesterday in Germany, there was a limited pilot where they bleeded in 20% hydrogen into natural gas that are piped into people's homes, right? And that's already starting to progress. And so it's starting to replace already traditional hydrocarbons in combustion. And so I think hydrogen is going to play an absolutely critical role. And when you say hydrogen, I think it's got to be a clean source of hydrogen. So let's use the word green hydrogen here. There are other quote unquote colors, but I think green hydrogen will have a pivotal role to take care of the 50 to 60% of the other emission sources that are present in society.
Yeah. The one other thing that's within the larger energy and renewable energy space, gaining a lot of traction these days is the CNI space, right? The commercial and industrial space. And a lot of companies are getting into it. It's attracting a lot of capital. I want to understand what is HFE's plans on this side. If you could, brief us on that. And because a lot of companies are present here already, right? So, what is the ways in which you can differentiate yourself?
Yeah. So, any serious step towards decarbonization has to involve the corporate sector. And so it's impossible for us to reach there without making sure that the entire corporate sector, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's industrial, whether it's a commercial sector, actually participates in it. Now, fortunately, they have two strong reasons to participate in I'd say, greening of their energy mix today. One is it's pure economics. For those who consume large amounts of electricity, at least, renewable energy is a lower cost supply source for them. Now, let's talk about the intermittency and the reliability 24 hours. That's a different problem to solve. But from a pure economic standpoint, the corporates have, I think, today a high motivation to switch. Second is most corporates all over the world, India included, are starting to make commitments towards net zero. And they've all set timelines for themselves to get to net zero. And so this helps in that transition for them as well. Given that, the corporate industrial sector in most countries, India included, is the single largest consumer of energy, right? Hero HFE is really committed to making sure that we work as an energy transition partner. So it's can we design solutions towards net zero rather than say I'm going to put rooftop solar on your roof shed or on your manufacturing facility, which is the baby step that we took 10 years back. Now we're really working very actively to say, how do we look at the entire energy mix and create a roadmap to take you from today to a net zero energy mix? And we'll design whatever solutions are appropriate to do that, whether it's open access, whether it's round the clock power, whether it's hybrid power, whether it includes green hydrogen to blend with LPG or natural gas, whether it involves battery storage to make sure that you get around the clock. So we are offering, I think, a whole suite of solutions to make sure that we are the energy transition partner. We are not just a supplier of renewable energy.
That makes a lot of sense. The one other thing that I wanted to ask you is, so we have talked about the India business so far and the Indian industry so far. What about HFE's plans outside, right? What are the different markets we're present in? Which one of them are the more promising ones when it comes to renewables? And what exactly are the specific offerings there in these markets? If you can brief us on that.
Sure. So right now we're focused on three markets. We're focused on Bangladesh, Vietnam, and the UK. And Bangladesh, this news item came out last year. we got a letter of award from the government to build a solar fisheries project. Now, Bangladesh has actually fairly significant renewable energy potential. However, one of the constraints there is land and what I call usable land. And so one way to get around that is to use land that otherwise cannot be used for other purposes. So we're using land that's, I guess, exposed to water most of the year. And instead of letting it go waste, we're actually creating an artificial fisheries there that allows the local population a means of livelihood, and then erecting the solar panels at a suitable height. That way people can still use the water body for fishing, but at the same time that, we also supply renewable energy through solar panels. And so that's the first project that we've got that we are, doing the land acquisition for in Bangladesh. We see Bangladesh as a country of fairly significant RE potential. So we're going to focus on building our presence there. We actually have started construction on our first CNI project in Vietnam as we speak. And so Vietnam, again, has fairly significant renewable energy potential. The new power development plan, the PDP-8, was recently approved by the PM's office. And I think two of the things that are worth mentioning there is, one is they want to make sure that there is increased focus on self-generation. And what they mean by that is, as
sustainable aviation fuel.
There's rooftops, build something on it, right? So they're saying people generate for yourself. Don't necessarily just work on large power plants, feeding the grid through centralized generation, but they say distributed generation, right?
Okay.
So focus on a lot on rooftop, and that goes for the commercial industrial specifically, right? Okay. And so that's going to be a huge growth area for us. UK is a mature market, but evolving tremendously. And so I think we see lots of opportunities in the UK, not just in battery storage and managing, learning how the merchant market works, but also supplying the CNI sector in the UK, which again is, I'd say, in some ways a few steps ahead in terms of their decarbonization targets for themselves. So there's tremendous potential in the UK to support the CNI sector, and also to start implementing some of the new technologies, integrated battery storage, ancillary services through storage only, and so on. So that's kind of where we are focusing our efforts on internationally.
One last question for this conversation, Sri. We had KKR equity infusion recently, and I want to understand what changes in terms of growth strategy or focus areas, if you can answer that.
Yeah, I'd say nothing has changed fundamentally in our growth strategy. I think all it's going to do is to boost our speed. It's certainly going to accelerate the strategy we are in. We are in multiple countries. We're going to focus on new technologies. Certainly, we were one of the winners of the last SECI Tranche 6, which is a solar wind battery storage bid. We did win the Kerala battery storage bid a few months back. So we are focusing on some of these newer elements that are coming up in the Indian sector. And clearly, I think the Ministry of Power has already said it's, the plan is 50 gigawatts a year for the next 5 years at least, right? And a large part of this capacity is designed to be either round the clock or peak power or load following or battery storage only. And so we're going to try to focus on some of these, I'd say, emerging areas or these emerging technologies. At the same time, maintaining, diversification internationally, right? I think that's really a strategy. And start to focus and start to invest in things like green hydrogen and their derivatives. So that's clearly a big growth area that we see for ourselves.
And that brings us to an end of this conversation, Sri. It was really nice interacting with you. We have discussed a lot of important things, including the larger industry and, of course, the focus of the company. Thanks for your time, and we really look forward to hosting you again. Thank you.
Thanks, Sudesh. Appreciate it.